One of the things I love most about Commander is the variety. While I appreciate the 60-card formats, dying to the same old meta decks game after game is exhausting. In Commander, there's an almost endless number of ways to win or lose the game. But that begs the question, how do you win a game of Commander? And I'm not just talking about what win conditions you've added to your deck, but what's your actual game plan? How do you want to win? Or rather, what assortment of synergistic game pieces do you want to assemble to actually close out the game? This is a valuable question to ask, because for most casual Commander players, winning is only part of the fun. Yes, it's the primary goal of the game and you should always play to win, but how you win is almost just as important. For example, I've been in plenty of games where I've played poorly, missed land drops, and cast almost nothing of significance all game, only for the other players to effectively eliminate each other and hand me a free victory. Sure, I'm glad to have won, but would I call that a successful game of Commander? Probably not, because my deck did not do what it was designed to do. I didn't win how I wanted. And this isn't an uncommon sentiment. How many casual Commander players do you know that won't play infinite combos in their deck? How many refuse to include easy win cards like Thassa's Oracle or Craterhoof Behemoth? As casual Commander players, we don't just want to win the game, we want to, quote, do the thing. And yet, I see so many new players, and even some veteran players, forget this vitally important deck building principle. They'll build a fun and unique deck, only to cheat themselves out of a satisfying victory by including some generic win con that does not align with their deck's strategy or goal. For example, I was playing a game recently against a Palladia Moors the Ruiner deck. It was a very interesting dragon-typal blink deck that played tons of unique cards like Nadar Selfless Paladin, Demanding Dragon, Guardian Scalelord, and more. Combined with a few dragon staples like Lathless Dragon Queen, Ganax, Astral Dragon, and Dragon Tempest, the deck was brutally efficient and fun to play against. The Palladia Moors player got out to an early lead, but a few key removal pieces really slowed them down. On their next turn, we expected them to start rebuilding their dragon army. Instead, they cast Insurrection. Insurrection is an old Commander staple. It's an 8 mana value sorcery that costs 5 generic and 3 red mana. For that, you get to untap all creatures and gain control of them until end of turn. This let them unceremoniously end the game. For me personally, it was a little anticlimactic. After seeing their deck do several cool and interesting things, Insurrection just felt out of place. And the Palladia Moors player actually agreed. He had added it to the deck because he wanted more win cons, but found immediately that since he built the deck to win with dragons, Insurrection felt unearned. Now, to be clear, there's nothing wrong with winning off an Insurrection. I think it's a great card, and one that fits in plenty of decks. I even have it in one of my decks. But again, I use this example to illustrate my original point. How you win is a huge factor to consider in deck building. If you like Insurrection and enjoy playing it, or it fits your strategy, then great, you should absolutely play it. But if you make a deck that's designed to blink dragons for obscene value, you'll probably have more fun actually winning with those dragons. Of course, one caveat I should mention is that sometimes respecting this deck building principle means making suboptimal deck building choices. A couple guys in my regular pod took Gary out of their reanimation decks, for example, as they decided that's not how they want to win. Objectively speaking, that probably made their decks worse and they may win fewer games as a result. Of course, the games they do win are now more valuable to them because their wins better align with their deck strategy and goals. Okay, now with all of that said, I want to talk about my favorite method for finding appropriate, thematic, and satisfying win cons for my decks: mind maps. I've mentioned this in a previous video, and I'm going to keep bringing it up because I think it's an underrated way to visualize your deck. Personally, I do this with an actual pen and paper, but there are plenty of digital tools that can be used for the same effect. As an example, let's take a look at my mostly Gorgon typal deck, helmed by Sisters of Stone Death. This was actually one of the first Commander decks I ever built, and when I first put it together, it was a heavy control deck where the goal was to cast expensive Gorgons like my Commander, and that was basically it. Not exactly a winning strategy. After playing the deck a few times and realizing that it had no real win conditions, I added a few generic staples. I had lots of removal in the deck, so I threw in Rise of the Dark Realms, and I was ramping a lot to cast my expensive Gorgons, so why not throw in Exsanguinate too? Sure enough, the deck started winning games, but I hated it. I was no longer playing a Gorgon deck, I was just stalling the game until I could draw into one of my generic finishers. The deck I wanted to play wasn't aligned with the deck I had built. So I put together a mind map and went over what the deck was currently doing. I went through my list of cards one at a time, writing down different strategies and themes as they appeared. Reaper of the Wilds, for example, fit my primary theme of Gorgons, but also added Death Touch and Dies triggers to my mind map. Similarly, Skullwinder, which is Gorgon adjacent, added Regrowth to my map, while also supporting the Death Touch theme from earlier. I represented this overlap with a circle. My commander, Sisters of Stone Death, added a few more categories like Force Blocks, Exile Touch, an offshoot of Death Touch, and Creature Theft. As I was making my original mind map, I came across another interesting card in my deck, Zathrid Gorgon. On top of adding another circle to Death Touch, Zathrid Gorgon has a unique ability that stops a creature from attacking or activating its ability. I wrote this down as can only block as I added it to my map, and suddenly something clicked. Death Touch, Force Blocks, can only block. There was the connection I was looking for. I started researching additional cards that dealt with blocking and ended up falling headfirst into a forced blocks strategy. While this did push me a bit away from the Gorgon theme I started with, I ended up with a more focused and more enjoyable strategy that felt uniquely mine. Some of my less powerful, but certainly more interesting finishers now include cards like Gloom Sower and Noxious Assault. Coupled with a lure effect, these cards can turn an opponent's board of creatures into immediate death. If you're interested, you'll find a link to my Gorgon deck in the description of this video. In sharing this story, I hope that I've illustrated why, as deck builders, we need to be more careful in choosing our win cons. Just ask yourself, do I want to win the game because I happen to draw Exsanguinate in my Blink deck? Or would I rather win with some weird Magister Sphinx Hidetsugu Second Right combo? If you've already put serious thought into designing a highly synergistic and thematic deck, shouldn't your win cons match that level of effort? At any rate, thanks for watching, and I hope you found this video helpful. And please, share in the comments below some of your more unusual and interesting cards that help you close out the game. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe to help my channel grow.